The alien ship surrounded Earth's space station. Commander Zorak stood on his ship looking at the human station on his screen. His green, scaly skin caught the light as he narrowed all four of his eyes. "Humans," Zorak said through his translator, "give up now. We have watched your kind for many years. You are weak, soft creatures who got lucky with space travel. Surrender to the hegemony or be destroyed." On the space station called Guardian, Lieutenant Jane Wilson sighed as she heard this. She had dealt with alien threats before, but this one seemed extra dramatic. Captain Greg Porter stood next to her, arms crossed and a small smile on his face. "Should we worry about this one?" Jane whispered. The captain nodded. "Connect me to them." Jane opened the channel and Captain Porter spoke clearly. "This is Captain Porter of Earth Station Guardian. We thank you for your enthusiasm, but Earth is protected by the Galactic Union. Any attack would break space law." The alien commander's second set of eyes blinked fast, which humans knew was their way of laughing. "The Galactic Union? Those weaklings? They left you alone, human. We stopped their ships 2 light years away. You have no friends here." Captain Porter's face grew serious. The Union ships had been bringing supplies and people, including his brother's family coming back from a peace mission. "You attacked Union ships?" he asked, his voice now low and dangerous. "Just stop them," Zorak said like it was nothing. "We will let them go when Earth gives up." Jane saw the captain's jaw tighten. She made a small hand signal to Officer Pete Wilson, who started sending a secret message to Earth right away. "I see," Porter said. "And what do you want from Earth?" "Your planet has things we need, but mostly we want your animals for study. Your world has many interesting creatures. We are very interested in your pets." Jane looked surprised. "Our pets?" "Yes. The animals you call dogs interest us. Our scientists think they might help us make our own war animals better." Porter and Jane looked at each other. "You want our dogs?" Porter asked. "For weapons?" "Yes. Their loyalty programming is like nothing we have seen. If we could copy it for our war beasts, no one could stop us." Captain Porter looked at his team. Everyone seemed both relieved and confused. They had expected the aliens to ask for water, metals, or even humans. But dogs? "Commander," Porter said carefully, "maybe we can work something out. Perhaps a cultural exchange? We could show you our training methods." Commander Zorax's lip curled up, showing his sharp teeth. "Do not try to fool us, human. We've studied your simple mind tricks with these animals. We need DNA samples from your most fierce specimens." "I see," Porter nodded. "That might take time to arrange. How about a small demonstration first? We have some service animals on this station." Zorak stood straighter, showing interest. "You have war dogs here? On your military base?" "We have working dogs, yes," Jane said quickly. "Maybe we could show you while our governments talk?" After a short pause, Zorax answered. "Agreed. Prepare your most dangerous beast for me to see. I will come with guards in 2 hours." When the call ended, Jane turned to Porter. "Sir, we don't have any military dogs on the station. We only have Bill Green's support puppy," Porter finished, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Get Bill up here, and tell him to bring Spot." 2 hours later, Security Chief Lisa Brown stood in the docking area, her hand near her gun as the alien group walked down from their shuttle. Behind her was Bill Green, the station's supply manager, holding a small pet carrier. Commander Zorax was almost 8 feet tall, with 4 guards carrying what looked like energy guns. His eyes moved around the room until he saw the carrier. "You keep your war beast locked up," he said with approval. "Smart." Chief Brown kept her face calm. "Commander Zorax, welcome to Earth Station Guardian. I'm Chief Brown, this is Bill Green, and this," she pointed to the carrier, "is Spot." Bill nervously opened the carrier door, and out walked a small, golden puppy about 4 months old with big paws and a wagging tail. Zorax stared at the puppy. The puppy stared back, tilting his head. "What is this trick?" Zorax hissed, his guards raising their weapons. "Where's the beast? The killer I asked to see?" Bill looked confused. "This is Spot, sir. He's our newest station member." The puppy, Not noticing the tension, walked up and sniffed Zorax's boot. Then he sat down, looked up at the alien and gave a friendly woof. One of the alien guards jumped back in fear, his weapon shaking. Zorax himself stepped back. "Is it attacking?" he asked. Chief Brown tried not to smile. "No, Commander. He's saying hello. This is a normal Earth dog, just a baby. They get bigger, but this kind is known for being gentle and smart. They're mainly pets." "This?" Zorax pointed at Spot, who was now rolling on his back. "This is what your people live with? This is the creature we've been studying?" Bill nodded. "Would you like to pet him? He's very friendly." Zorax looked at Bill like he had said something crazy. "Touch it? With my hand?" "It's normal," Brown explained. "It's how humans and dogs connect." Very slowly, Zorax reached out one long, scaly finger and touched the puppy's head. Spot immediately licked the alien's hand. Zorax pulled his hand back fast. "It put something wet on me." "That's just how they show they like you," Bill said quickly. "It's completely safe." The alien commander looked at his hand, then at the puppy, who was now chasing his tail in circles. "Our research said these animals were dangerous guards that could tear out throats and find hidden enemies," Zorax said slowly. "Our scientists thought humans made them as weapons." Brown shook her head. "Some are trained for security work, but most are companions. They've lived with humans for thousands of years. They're family to us." Zorax turned to his second-in-command and spoke quickly in their own language. The other alien answered with clicking sounds. After a heated talk, Zorax turned back to the humans. "It seems we have made a mistake in our research. We thought these animals were the source of humanity's unexpected defense abilities." Spot had finished chasing his tail and was now sitting at Bill's feet, looking up hopefully for treats. "If this is not your secret weapon," Zorax continued, "then what explains how your species survived against earlier attacks? What explains the defeat of the Kroll mission, or the failed Mexorian invasion?" Brown and Bill looked at each other, confused. "I'm not allowed to discuss Earth's defense secrets," Brown said carefully. "But I can tell you, our puppies are not our secret weapons." Zorax looked at Spot for a long moment. "Maybe the deception goes deeper than we thought. Very clever, humans." He stood up straight. "I will tell the Hegemony Council about this meeting. Our invasion plans will be reconsidered as the aliens return to their shuttle." Bill looked at Chief Brown. "What just happened?" Brown watched the shuttle door close. "I think they believe we're hiding something even more dangerous than dogs," she smiled. "And maybe that's good for us." On the bridge, Captain Porter and Lieutenant Wilson watched the alien fleet moving away from the station. "They're moving to a higher orbit," Jane reported. "Their weapons are powering down." Porter nodded. "Send a full report to Earth Command and get me a secure line to the Union Embassy. I want to know about those convoy ships." "Yes, sir." Jane paused. "Do you think they'll come back?" Porter watched the alien ships on the screen. "Yes, they'll be back. But next time they'll be more careful about what they call a beast." 3 months after the alien ships left, Earth went back to normal but carefully. The Galactic Union sent more patrols to our solar system, and people started talking with the Hegemony, making a shaky peace deal. At the new Alien Relations Center, in Geneva, Switzerland, head diplomat Steve Brooks rubbed his head as he read a message from the alien team. "They want what?" asked his helper Nancy Clark, putting a coffee cup on his desk. "They want to watch dogs as part of their cultural program," Steve said, looking at the screen. "They want to send people to study dogs in normal human homes." Nancy raised her eyebrow. "After they almost attacked us because of dogs? That's weird. They seem really interested in understanding how humans and dogs live together. Their scientists think dogs might be making humans stronger somehow." "That's silly," Nancy said. "Though my dog Pepper is pretty smart." Steve nodded, still reading. "The Galactic Union wants us to say yes. They think this could help make peace with the Hegemony. So we're letting them study our pets? Yes, with careful watching and only families who volunteer." Steve leaned back. The hard part is finding someone to lead the program who knows about both diplomatic rules and dogs. Nancy smiled. I might know just the person. 2 weeks later, Dr. Susan Reed stood at the Geneva Space Airport, holding a sign with the alien symbol. Next to her sat a medium-sized mixed dog with bright eyes and a calm nature. Are you sure about this, Rex? She whispered to the dog, who leaned against her leg as if to say yes. Susan was perfect to lead the dog-watching program. She taught animal behavior at Harvard and was a dog trainer. She knew how to work with different species, and her family background in diplomacy gave her the right skills. The doors opened, and 3 aliens walked in with Union guards. Leading them was a face Susan knew from the news, Commander Zorax, now called Special Science Envoy. Dr. Reed, Zorax said, giving a small bow he had learned from humans. Thank you for helping with our research. Envoy Zorax, Susan replied with her own bow. Welcome to Earth. This is Rex, my companion. Rex sat very still, watching the aliens, calmly. The aliens stared at the dog with all 4 of their eyes looking both careful and interested. He is not tied up, said one of Zorax's friends, an alien named lead researcher Krell. No, Susan confirmed. Rex is trained to stay with me. Most pet dogs on Earth are not tied up when they're in safe places. Krell wrote something on a device on his wrist. Amazing. The obedience programming must be very good. It's not programming, Susan corrected kindly. It's training and the natural bond between humans and dogs. We'll learn about this during your visit. As they walked to the exit, Susan noticed Zorax keeping away from Rex. He will not put wet stuff on me, will he? The commander asked nervously. Susan tried not to smile. Rex will not lick you without permission, no. In the first week, they did carefully planned watching at the research center. The aliens watched videos of dogs doing different jobs, finding lost people, helping disabled people, police work, and just being pets. These small animals pull humans from fallen buildings. Krell asked in surprise as they watched a rescue team video. Their sense of smell is about 10,000 to 100,000 times better than ours, Susan explained. They can find humans under rubble when our machines can't. Zorax waved his hand. This is just using a biological detection system. Logical, even if simple. But it doesn't explain the strange attachment. What strange attachment? Susan asked. Humans cry when these animals die, Krell said, showing data on his tablet. They spend lots of money on their care. They talk to them like they understand complex words. Some even say the animals have feelings. He said the last word like, it tasted strange. Susan nodded slowly. Yes, dogs and humans have lived together for at least 15,000 years. The relationship is more than just usefulness. That is what we want to understand, Zorax said. Our early research suggests these animals might be affecting human brain chemistry. Maybe they release chemicals that make human performance better, or create dependency. Susan blinked. You think dogs are drugging us? It is a possible theory, Krell confirmed. The second part of the program included visits to volunteer families. The first home belonged to Dan and Jeff Palmer, who lived in a suburban house with their 2 children and 3 dogs, a Labrador, a poodle, and an old dachshund. As they entered the living room, the poodle barked excitedly, making all 3 aliens jump. The Labrador came forward slowly while the dachshund barely lifted his head from his bed. Different behavior patterns in the same home, Krell said quietly, taking notes. Fascinating. 10-year-old Kate Palmer knelt beside the poodle. Fluffy, sit. Be nice to our guests. The dog sat right away, though her tail kept wagging. Zorax watched closely. The young human controls the beast with voice commands. Fluffy's not a beast, Kate said, looking up at the tall alien. She's part of our family. Family, repeated Zorax, his translator making the word sound like a question. You share genetic material? Jeff Palmer stepped forward. Not biological. Family, no. But family in all the ways that matter. Show them Fluffy's tricks, Kate, suggested Dan. For the next 15 minutes, Kate showed how Fluffy could sit, stay, roll over, play dead, and fetch specific toys by name. The aliens watched quietly, sometimes looking at each other or taking notes. The amount of information this animal can process is surprising, Krell finally said. Our analysis suggested their brains were too small for such complex learning. They're smarter than they look, Jeff said with a smile. But it's not just intelligence, it's the relationship. As if to show this, the old dachshund finally got up from his bed and slowly walked to Jeff, who naturally picked up the aging dog and put him on his lap. This one seems broken, Zorax said. Limited movement, gray fur. Why do you keep it past its useful life? The room went quiet. Even young Kate seemed to understand how rude the question was. Buddy isn't an it, Jeff said quietly, petting the old dog's head. He's been with me for 16 years. Through college, my first job meeting, done everything. He's family. But he no longer does tasks, Krell pushed. He uses resources without giving anything back. Susan saw the tension building and tried to change the subject. This is actually an important cultural difference to understand. In human society, the value of a pet isn't measured by usefulness. Then how is it measured? Zorax asked. Dan sat beside his husband and the old dog. By love. By the joy they bring to our lives. By the memories we share. The aliens stared, clearly having trouble with this idea. After an awkward silence, Zorax came closer and, hesitantly, reached out a hand toward Buddy. The old dachshund sniffed. The scaly fingers then gave them a gentle lick before settling back on Jeff's lap. He has accepted me? Zorax asked. Jeff nodded. He's a good judge of character. Something changed in Zorax's posture. He stepped back and talked quietly with his friends before turning to Susan. We would like to change our research plan, he announced. We wish to experience this relationship directly. Susan raised her eyebrows. You want to interact with dogs yourselves, not just watch? Correct. Is this possible? The next day, Susan arranged a visit to the local animal shelter. Director Mary Jones greeted them at the entrance, surprisingly, calm about meeting 3 tall, scaly aliens. We have dogs of all ages and personalities, she explained, leading them through the building. Some are more active, others more relaxed. Many have had hard pasts and need extra patience. The aliens followed, wincing a little at the barking that greeted them. Rex walked calmly beside Susan, sometimes looking at the shelter dogs with interest. Why are these animals not taken? Zorax asked, looking into one of the cages where a pit bull mix watched them carefully. Various reasons, Mary said. Some were given up by owners who couldn't care for them anymore. Others were saved from neglect or abandonment. We work to find them new homes. Krell looked confused. If they are so valuable to humans, why are they thrown away? Mary's face darkened. Not everyone treats animals with the respect they deserve. Part of our mission is education. As they walked past the cages, most dogs showed excitement or curiosity about the strange visitors. But at the end of one row, a small, scruffy terrier mix was hiding at the back of its cage. What about that one? Asked the third alien, a junior, researcher named Vex, who had been mostly quiet until now. Mary checked the information card. This is Rusty. He was rescued from a bad situation, very afraid of strangers, especially those who move suddenly or speak loudly. He's been here for months because he needs a very patient home. Vex approached the cage slowly. The small dog shook, but watched the alien with wide eyes. His fear response is like ours, Vex said quietly to his friends. When the Krell invaders came to our world. Zorax made a sound that the translator didn't convert, maybe an expression of discomfort or recognition. May I go in? Vex asked Mary. She hesitated. He's very scared. I wouldn't want either of you to have a bad experience. I will be careful, Vex promised. I wish to understand. 1 year after the historic first alien dog adoption, the interspecies canine diplomatic program had expanded beyond anyone's expectations. Over 50 Vex aliens had adopted Earth dogs, and reports indicated the practice was spreading to other species within the hegemony. At the North American Diplomatic Hub in Toronto, Program Director Olivia Grant reviewed the latest updates with her assistant, Paul Jenkins. The Vexalian Parliament has officially classified dogs as protected companion species, Paul reported, scrolling through his tablet. That gives them the same legal status as their own children. Olivia smiled, scratching behind Max's ears. Not bad for a species they wanted to weaponize 2 years ago. There's more, Paul continued. The Galactic Union is using the program as a model for other interspecies cultural exchanges. They're calling it the Canine Doctrine, the idea that shared care for vulnerable species can build trust between otherwise hostile civilizations. Dogs, bringing peace to the galaxy, Olivia mused. Who would have thought? Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert on the main screen. A Union diplomatic vessel was requesting emergency docking clearance. When the ship landed, out stepped a familiar figure, Envoy Zorax, now sporting the formal regalia of a hegemony high commander. Behind him followed Vex, who now served as the Vexalian ambassador to Earth, Dr. Grant. Zorax greeted her with the human-style handshake he had perfected. I apologize for the unscheduled arrival. High Commander, Olivia replied, immediately sensing something was wrong. What brings you here with such urgency? Zorax's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress in Vexalians. A crisis has emerged, one that threatens not only our new alliance but potentially the safety of this region of space. In the secure conference room, Zorax activated a holographic display showing a distant star system near the border between Union and Hegemony space. 3 days ago, a Hegemony research vessel in this system went silent, he explained. When our patrol ships investigated, they found this. The hologram shifted to show the vessel, or what remained of it. The ship had been torn apart, its hull breached in multiple places. Initial analysis suggested a Union attack, Zorax continued, but the energy signatures don't match Union weapons. Olivia studied the images. If not the Union, then who? We believe it may be the Krell, Ambassador Vex said quietly. The name sent a chill through the room. The Krell were considered a semi-mythical threat, a hive mind species that had allegedly driven the Vexalians from their original homeworld centuries ago. Many in the Union considered them to be propaganda invented to justify hegemony military expansion. The Krell are real? Paul asked, voicing everyone's surprise. Very real, Zorax confirmed grimly, but dormant for generations. We believed they had retreated to the galactic rim. If they have returned and are moving into this sector, Olivia understood the implications. Earth would be in their path. Precisely. And Earth lacks the defensive capabilities to withstand a Krell incursion. Ambassador Vex stepped forward. There is another complication. The research vessel was part of our companion species program. There were 17 Earth dogs aboard, along with their Vexalian companions. Olivia felt her heart sink. Were there any survivors? Zorax's expression grew even more grave. Our sensors detected life pods ejected before the ship's destruction, but by the time our patrols arrived, the pods had been collected by the attacking forces. They took the survivors? Olivia asked, horrified. Yes, and based on recovered fragments of communication, we believe the Krell may have been specifically targeting the vessel because of the Earth species aboard. But why would an advanced hostile species care about dogs? Paul asked. The Krell operate differently from other sentient beings, Zorax explained. They don't think individually but as a collective consciousness. They don't use technology as we understand it. They engineer biological systems instead. Understanding dawned on Olivia. So they might be interested in dogs for the same reason you originally were. Their trainability, their loyalty. But with far darker purposes, Vex finished. The Krell don't form alliances. They assimilate or destroy. Zorax straightened to his full height. The Hegemony Council has authorized me to propose a joint defense initiative. We will provide ships and weapons. We ask Earth to provide strategic advisors. Why Earth? Paul asked. We're not the most advanced military power in the Union. Because, Zorax said, you understand something the rest of us have only begun to learn. The power of the bond with these companion animals. If the Krell are attempting to exploit that bond, we need human expertise to counter it. Olivia looked at Max, who had settled quietly under the conference table. You're not just asking for military advisors, are you? No, Zorax admitted. We need your search and rescue dog teams, the best you have. 24 hours later, an emergency coalition had formed. The Union provided a stealth reconnaissance ship, the Hegemony contributed a battle cruiser, and Earth sent its most elite K9 search and rescue teams, specialists trained to find survivors in the most hostile environments. Aboard the Union vessel, Horizon, Captain Evan Martinez of Earth's International Rescue Corps briefed his team of 6 handlers and their dogs. This mission is unprecedented, he told them, standing before the holographic display of their target sector. We're operating in unknown territory against an enemy we know almost nothing about. Our primary objective is to locate and rescue the survivors from the research vessel. How do we even know they're still alive? Asked Ryan Jackson, handler of a German shepherd named Duke. Vexalian biomonitors, replied Amy Wong, adjusting the specialized vest on her bloodhound Scout. All participants in the companion program wear them. 17 signals are still active, though growing weaker. What about the dogs? Asked Nicole Peterson, whose Belgian Malinois Rex was one of the most decorated search dogs on Earth. Captain Martinez's expression darkened. Unknown. The monitoring system wasn't designed for canine physiology. The briefing was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Zorax and Dr. Grant, accompanied by Max. We've received new intelligence, Zorax announced without preamble. Our long-range scanners have detected what appears to be a Krell biomass vessel on the 4th moon of the gas giant in the Proxima system. Biomass vessel? Ryan asked. The Krell don't build ships as we understand them, Olivia explained. They grow them from living tissue. Think of it as a mobile colony rather than a mechanical vessel. Our plan, Zorax continued, is to approach using the Union ship's stealth capabilities. Once in range, we'll deploy your teams to locate and extract our people. And if we encounter these Krell? Nicole asked. Zorax and Olivia exchanged glances. Avoid engagement if possible, Zorax said. The Krell aren't individuals as you understand them. They're extensions of a central intelligence. Killing one changes nothing. Like cutting off a tentacle, Amy suggested. More like cutting off a fingernail, Zorax corrected. An inconvenience, nothing more. Captain Martinez studied the tactical display. How do we extract once we've found the survivors? I'm guessing we can't just walk out the front door. The Hegemony cruiser will create a diversion, Zorax explained. When the Krell respond, your team will move in, locate our people, and signal for extraction. The Union ship will briefly decloak, collect your team, and retreat before the Krell realize what's happened. Simple, Ryan muttered sarcastically. One more thing, Olivia added. The Vexalians believe the Krell may be specifically interested in the human-canine bond. Your dogs aren't just tools for this mission. They may be targets. Guard them accordingly. 3 days later, the rescue team prepared in the deployment bay of the Horizon as it approached the Krell biomass vessel. Through the viewports, they could see the bizarre structure. It resembled a massive coral formation, pulsing with bioluminescent light, wrapped around the small moon's surface. That's not a ship, Nicole whispered. That's an infection. Captain, Martinez finished checking his equipment. Remember the plan. We go in fast and quiet, find the survivors, signal for extraction, get out. No heroics. The 6 handlers and their dogs would split into 3 teams, each taking a different approach vector. Olivia would coordinate from the Horizon, while Zorax joined Team Alpha with Captain Martinez and Nicole. The atmosphere is breathable, but contains higher concentrations of methane and sulfur compounds, Olivia told them through the comms. The dogs may be sensitive to it. Monitor them closely. Understood, Martinez replied. Teams ready for deployment. Hegemony cruiser reports ready to initiate diversion, came the voice of the Horizon's captain. 30 seconds to optimal position. The teams made final adjustments to their gear. The dogs, sensing the tension, remained alert but calm. A testament to their extensive training. Diversion initiated, announced the ship's captain. Deploying teams now. The bay doors opened. revealing the eerie surface of the moon, dominated by the pulsing biomass of the Krell vessel. In the distance, energy flares indicated the hegemony cruiser engaging the Krell defenses. "Go, go, go!" Martinez ordered. The teams moved swiftly across the lunar surface, their boots kicking up dust as they approached different entry points along the biomass structure. Up close, it was even more disturbing. The surface seemed to breathe, membranes opening and closing, like thousands of tiny mouths. The rescue team barely made it back to the Union ship Explorer. As they escaped from the moon, the Krell biomass vessel began to change shape, stretching out tendrils that tried to grab their ship. "Maximum speed," ordered Captain Harris, the Explorer's commander. "Get us out of sensor range before they can track us." In the medical bay, Dr. Susan Reed examined the few samples they had managed to bring back. Tissue from the altered Vexalians, data from Zorax's scanner, and recordings of the altered dog's behavior. "What do you think?" asked Captain Jack Wilson, joining her after the debriefing. "Can we help them?" Susan looked up from her microscope with tired eyes. "The changes are very advanced. The Krell fungus has bonded with their cellular structure. It's not just controlling them, it's becoming them." Zorax entered the medical bay, his usual confident posture now bent with worry. "The Union Council and hegemony leaders have been informed. They're calling an emergency meeting." "What about Earth?" Wilson asked. "Earth has been placed on high alert," Zorax replied, "but they have limited defenses against a Krell invasion." Susan turned back to her samples. "We need to understand how the bond between dogs and their companions might help us." It was the only thing that seemed to break through the Krell control, even for a moment. For the next 2 weeks, as the Explorer traveled back to Earth, Susan worked tirelessly analyzing the samples. Sometimes Kim Davis would join her, bringing Rex to help with experiments testing how dogs reacted to the altered tissue samples. "It's strange," Susan said one day as Rex sniffed at a sealed container holding a tiny piece of altered dog tissue. "He recognizes it as canine, but he's confused by it, almost sad." "Dogs understand more than we give them credit for," Kim replied, stroking Rex's head. "They feel loss and recognize when something is wrong." On the bridge, Zorax and Captain Harris received a disturbing transmission from the hegemony scout ships. "The Krell vessel has left the moon," Harris reported to the crew. "It's heading directly for the nearest inhabited system, and it's moving faster than our projections suggested was possible." "Which system?" asked Wilson. Harris's expression was grim. "The Procyon system. It has 3 inhabited planets, including a human colony." "How long until they get there?" Susan asked. 4 days, Zorax answered. "We're 7 days from Earth at maximum speed. Then we need to warn the Procyon system," Wilson said. "Already done," Harris replied, "but their defenses are minimal. The
main Union fleet is too far away to help in time." Susan looked at the samples she'd been studying. "I might have something. It's not a full solution, but it could give us an edge."
In the ship's conference room, Susan explained her findings to the assembled team. "The Krell use a fungal organism to connect their victims to the hive mind," she said, showing images on the main screen. "It rewrites their neural pathways to receive commands from the central intelligence, but there's a weakness." She brought up new images showing brain scans. In the altered dogs, the parts of the brain connected to emotional bonding are partially resistant to the fungus. That's why they responded to Rex's tricks and the offer of a treat. Those actions triggered memories associated with strong emotional connections. "How does this help us?" Zorax asked. "I've created a compound that might temporarily disrupt the fungal connection," Susan explained. "It won't cure them, but it could create a window where the altered beings are confused, acting on their own memories rather than Krell commands." Wilson leaned forward. "How would we deploy it?" "That's the hard part," Susan admitted. "It needs to be administered directly, ideally by injection, but a highly concentrated aerosol might work in enclosed spaces." "So we'd need to get close to them again," Kim said. "Yes, and we'd need dogs, as many as possible. The emotional trigger seems stronger coming from another dog than from humans." The room fell silent as they considered the implications. "There's a K9 training center on Procyon the 3rd, Wilson finally said. If we reroute now, we might get there just before the Krell. Captain Harris nodded. I'll notify Union Command and change course immediately. For the next 3 days, the Explorer pushed its engines to the limit. Meanwhile, Susan and her team worked to produce enough of the disruptive compound and create delivery systems. We'll need volunteers to go into the Krell vessel again, Wilson told his team. This will be even more dangerous than before. Every handler stepped forward. When they arrived at Procyon III, they found the colony in a state of controlled panic. Most civilians were being evacuated, but the small defense force and the staff of the K9 training center had chosen to stay. Director Alan West of the training center met them at the landing pad. We got your transmission. All 40 of our dogs and trainers are at your disposal, Captain. Wilson shook his hand. Thank you. How much time do we have? The Krell vessel entered the system 6 hours ago. It will reach our orbit in approximately 10 hours. Inside the training center, Susan briefed the trainers on their plan while Zorax and Wilson coordinated with the colony's defense forces. The compound must be delivered directly to as many altered beings as possible, Susan explained. Once administered, you'll need to use your dogs to trigger emotional responses in the altered dogs. Commands, tricks, treats, anything that reminds them of their training and bonds. And the altered Vexalians? Asked one trainer. Zorax believes they will respond to seeing their dogs regain independence. The bond works both ways. Many Vexalians have become deeply attached to their canine companions. As they prepared, Kim worked with the trainers to teach them how to protect their dogs while still using them effectively. Remember, she said, the Krell don't understand the bond. They see it as simple control like their hive mind. That's their weakness. 7 hours later, the Krell vessel appeared in the sky above Procyon III, a massive, writhing structure that blocked out the stars. It settled into a low orbit and began to extend tendrils toward the surface. They're sending down landing parties, reported the colony's defense coordinator. Multiple sites, including near the training center. That's what we expected, Wilson said. They're drawn to the concentration of dogs. The first sighting of the Krell themselves shocked even those who had been briefed. Unlike the altered Vexalians and dogs, which retained their basic forms, the Krell were truly alien, floating, jellyfish-like creatures trailing tendrils of fungal matter. They descended from the larger tendrils of the main vessel, drifting toward the surface like deadly spores. Those must be the coordination nodes, Susan said, watching through binoculars. The individual controllers for groups of altered beings. Behind the floating Krell came the ground forces, dozens of altered Vexalians and dogs moving with eerie coordination. Everyone in position, Wilson ordered through the comm system. Remember the plan. Teams 1 and 2 will target the altered beings with the compound. Team 3 will protect the administration site while the compound takes effect. Team 4 will attempt to reach the Krell controllers if possible. The K9 units spread out in their assigned groups, each handler with their dog close by their side. They had hidden themselves in buildings around the main square of the colony, where the Krell forces were converging. Susan, Zorax, and Kim were with Team 1, waiting in a low building with windows facing the square. Rex and 5 other trained dogs were with them, each wearing a special vest containing delivery mechanisms for the compound. They're entering the square, Kim reported, watching through a small opening in the shuttered window. The altered beings moved with unnatural precision, spreading out to secure the area. Behind them floated one of the jellyfish-like Krell controllers, its tendrils occasionally touching the heads of its controlled forces. Wait for my signal, Wilson said over the comm. Let them get fully into the square. The seconds ticked by as more altered beings filled the open space. Susan counted at least 20 altered dogs and a similar number of Vexalians. Now, Wilson ordered. All around the square, handlers and their dogs burst from hiding places. Each dog wore a specialized vest that Susan and the ship's engineers had created, capable of firing small darts containing the compound. The altered beings turned to face this new threat, but their reaction time was slower than expected. The trained dogs raced forward, targeting their altered counterparts with precision. Special launchers on their vests fired darts into the altered dogs and Vexalians. The Krell controller pulsed with angry light, sending more urgent commands to its forces. But where the compound had struck, the altered beings began to move erratically, their coordination breaking down. "It's working," Susan called. "Phase 2. The handlers called their dogs back, then gave them new commands. The trained dogs began performing tricks and routines directly in front of their altered counterparts. One by one, the altered dogs showed signs of confusion. Their heads tilted, their dull eyes focused. One, a small terrier mix, actually sat down when a trainer called out, "Sit!" even though the command wasn't directed at it. "The emotional centers are fighting back against the control," Susan said excitedly. "Keep going." The Krell controller drifted lower, its tendrils lashing out in apparent agitation. It reached toward one of the confused altered dogs, perhaps trying to reinforce its control. That's when Kim made her move. "Rex, now!"